Okay, so if you're in web development at all, you've probably heard the name Netlify. It's kind of everywhere, right? And people talk about it like it's this magic box. You just push your code and poof, a website appears. But what's really going on under the hood? Well, that's what we're going to dive into. We'll break down what it is, what it's amazing for, and just as important, what are the things you really need to consider?
All right, let's set the scene. You've just spent, I don't know, weeks, maybe even months, building the perfect website. Your code is pristine. The design is just chef's kiss. But it's all just sitting there, trapped on your local machine. Now comes the hard part, right? The final boss. Actually getting this thing online for the world to see. How do you even do that without a major headache?
For the longest time, the old way was, well, it was a nightmare. You had to go rent a server somewhere, fire up some clunky old FTP program like FileZilla, and then manually drag and drop every single file. Ugh, it was slow, it was messy, and if you made one mistake, the whole thing could break. But now we have the new way, and this is where platforms like Netlify come in, changing the entire game by focusing on automation and just making things simple.
And yeah, Netlify is absolutely one of the giants leading this charge. It was basically built with a single mission in mind. Take all those headaches from the old way, toss them in the trash, and give developers a smooth, all-in-one platform for the way we build websites today.
So what is it, really? At its heart, Netlify is a cloud platform built for modern static websites. And hey, hold on, don't let that word static throw you off. We're not talking about boring 1990s-style web pages. Static here is the foundation of a super powerful architecture called the Jamstack. The idea is to pre-build your website into a set of highly optimized files, which makes it just ridiculously fast, way more secure, and super easy to scale.
I love this analogy somebody on Reddit came up with. They said, Netlify is like a giant file system that hosts your website all over the world, and that's perfect. See, when you deploy your site, it isn't just sitting on one lonely server in, like, Virginia. Netlify takes your pre-built files and spreads them out across a massive global network, a content delivery network, or a CDN. What does that mean for you? It means your website loads lightning fast for literally anyone, anywhere on the planet.
But here's the thing, Netlify is so much more than just a hosting service. That's just the beginning. Its real magic, its secret sauce, comes from all the other features that are built right in. Features that make the whole process of building and deploying a website just smoother. So let's get into some of the big ones. Okay, first up, and this is probably what Netlify is most famous for, is its automated deployment. This is an absolute game changer. You just connect your Git repository, from GitHub, GitLab, whatever you use, and that's pretty much it. From that moment on, every single time you push a new line of code, Netlify sees it, automatically builds your site, and deploys the update. No more dragging and dropping files. This is what we call continuous deployment, or CI/CD, but made so simple anyone can do it. Okay, so your site is static, but what if you need it to do something, dynamic? Like, what if you need to process a payment, or talk to a database, or send an email? Well, that's where the next feature comes in. And I love this quote from Jason Langsdorf at Netlify: "Serverless functions give developers superpowers."
So what are these superpowers exactly? They're called Netlify functions, and the whole idea is, instead of having a big, clunky server running 24/7 just waiting for something to happen, you can write these little, tiny pieces of backend code. You can write them in JavaScript, TypeScript, even Go. They just sit there, and when they're needed, poof, they spin up instantly, do their one specific job, and then vanish. It's all the power of a backend, but with zero server maintenance, just pure on-demand code.
And a perfect example of where this is just amazing is something almost every website has: a contact form. Right? In the old days, you'd need an entire back-end server just to catch a simple message from a user. It was overkill. With Netlify, you can completely forget about all of that hassle. And I mean this, it is ridiculously easy. You go into your HTML, you find your form tag, and you add one little attribute: Netlify. That's it, seriously. Netlify's build process sees that, and it just handles everything. It starts collecting all your form submissions right in your dashboard. It can handle file uploads, redirect to custom thank you pages. It's like magic for one of the most common annoying problems in web dev.
Okay, so we've seen some of the cool features, but let's boil it down. What are the big picture advantages? Why do so many developers keep coming back to Netlify for their projects?
First and foremost, and this one's a really big deal, the price. or more specifically, the free starter plan. You get 100 gigabytes of bandwidth every single month. Now, to put that in perspective, for a personal portfolio, a blog, even a pretty decent small business website, that is a ton of data. It means you can get your project live, serving a lot of visitors without ever touching your credit card.
So, if we put it all together, the appeal of Netlify really comes down to three main things. Number one, it is just so easy to use. Like you can get a site live in minutes. Number two, the performance is incredible thanks to that global CDN we talked about. Your sites are just fast. And number three, that free tier is so generous. It's the perfect playground for personal projects, for open source stuff, or just for trying out a new idea.
But of course, no tool is perfect for everything. That's just not how tech works. So to really understand it, we have to look at the other side of the coin. What are the limitations? What are the things you need to watch out for before you go all in on Netlify?
Let's revisit those serverless functions. They're amazing, right? But they are not a one-for-one replacement for a traditional server. And here's why. They have a really strict time limit, usually about 10 seconds. If your code needs more time than that, it's just going to time out. They're also stateless, which is a fancy way of saying they have no memory. They forget everything as soon as they're done. So if you need to do something that takes a long time or you need to keep track of a user's session, serverless functions just aren't the right tool for the job.
And then there's the cost again. I know we said the free tier is great, and it is, but you have to be careful about how those costs can grow. Once you move past that free plan, because your team is bigger or your traffic is just exploding, the pro and business plans can get pricey. For really, really big applications, you might hit a point where it's actually cheaper to manage your own servers on something like AWS.
In just two other quick gotchas to keep in your back pocket. The first is something called a cold start. It's a small delay, maybe a second or two, that can happen with the serverless function if it hasn't been used in a while. The second thing is that bandwidth. Yeah, 100 gigs is a lot, but if your site is full of heavy stuff like high-resolution photos or videos, you can chew through that free allowance a lot quicker than you'd think. All right, so we've seen the good, we've seen the not so good. So what's the bottom line? When is Netlify the absolute perfect choice, and when should you maybe look at something else? It pretty much boils down to this. Netlify is an absolute slam dunk for things like blogs, portfolios, marketing websites, basically any kind of static site. It's the king of Jamstack apps and perfect for any project where you just want that fast, simple, automated workflow. But you should probably consider other options if you're building a really complex web app that needs a traditional, always-on backend, if you have jobs that need to run for a long time, or if you're working on a massive project where you're worried about costs getting out of control as you scale.
Look, at the end of the day, Netlify completely changed the game for web deployment. It made it faster, way simpler, and accessible to everyone. It lets developers do what they do best, build cool stuff, instead of messing around with servers. So the question I want to leave you with is, think about what you're working on. How could a workflow like this make your next project a whole lot easier?